a content editor, and is a social media marketer. He's extremely enthusiastic about his work, as you all will see with time. He specializes in integrated brand experience, strategic digital marketing, creative strategy, website development, graphic design, new media strategy, and storytelling. He is also proficient in social media management, strategy, and idea generation. He loves innovation and challenges, actually, and loves working with weird people. All right, everybody, can you please give him a round of applause one more time? Thank you all so much. So, to give us the opening address, Mr. Daniel Malik himself will come up here. So, everybody, please welcome him up stage with a round of applause. Thank you.
Good morning, everybody. How you doing? How are you? Hello. Okay, this is going to be one of the shortest, address you've ever listened to. My name is Daniel Malik. I'm the founder of Lagos Digital Marketing Training, and I'm just going to tell a very short story how we birthed the Lagos Digital Marketing Training. Years back, when we started digital marketing over 10 years ago, a lot of people didn't understand what digital marketing. So many companies didn't want to give us jobs as straight as ball. Decided that instead of people not having the knowledge of digital marketing or having someone to run your campaign for you yet no result, let's gather SMEs together, let's gather businesses, multinationals together, and teach them what digital marketing really is. Hence the Lagos Digital Marketing Training. This is the 9th edition of the Lagos Digital Marketing Training, and we welcome everybody. We're going to be having an amazing time today, trust me. We have here people that I've learned from, and I'm still learning from them. From my mentor, we call him J.O., Joko Kukwe, to Falake, to Pamileri and Shola, and trust me, we are going to be imparted and baptized into the real knowledge of digital marketing. Thank you very much, and have a wonderful time.
Thank you very much, Mr. Tan. To start up, all right, I'll be calling up stage Mr. Joko Okukwe. Everybody give him a round of applause, please. Welcome, sir.
Good morning, everybody. Good morning, everybody. I don't think I need this as well. Thank you. I welcome you all, and I'm happy to be here. The last time I was here, I think was also last year, and we had, I think, the 8th edition at that time. How many of us were here the last edition of digital marketing training that we had, Lagos Digital Marketing Training? Good. So most of us are attending, not for the first time, but we were in here last year. Just as a kickoff, I heard the lady talking about me. I know sometimes when you sit down in a place and people are talking about you, you smile to yourself. I think that was an old profile that she read. I joined the advertising industry in 1989. January 9, to be precise, 1989. And that's an agency called LTC Advertising. Lawson Thomas and Colleagues Advertising. And I had planned and agreed with myself that I would not work for more than 5 years for any agency before I tried to do something on my own. Whatever I was going to be, I hadn't decided then. I studied English for my first degree, and I graduated from Unilag in 1986. And I had intended in my little mind to be a lecturer. But I got close to a lecturer, and when I had an idea of how much lecturers were being paid at that time, I told myself, I don't think, I will go this route. So immediately I finished my NYC, which was in Niger State, Federal School of Arts and Science. I came back to school immediately. I didn't bother looking for a job to take a postgraduate in mass communication, which I completed in 1988. And I was very fortunate to pick up a job a couple of months after, in January. I spent 3 years in LTC advertising, and from there, I crossed over to Inside Communications in 1991. I didn't spend too long in Inside because I thought that LTC had prepared me for what I felt I needed to venture into entrepreneurship in the marketing communication space. So we started our first agency called Campaign Palace in 1993. And since then, we've experimented so many things. I must have set up close to 9 businesses. Some have succeeded very, very well. Some others have failed woefully. In between that, we have a lot to share. When you hear success stories of people, don't imagine for any time that that's their first story. There are many failure stories that you wouldn't hear. In 2015, I did a business worth $4 million, which was supposed to be a big break. I was very excited about it, and I was thankful for the opportunity. But guess what? That business ended with a loss of over 400 million naira. 2 other people that we did that business together lost their lives as a result of the pressure of that experience. So business by its nature swings, in many ways, just like life itself does. But whatever it is that you believe in, hold on to it and hold on fast. And the reason why many of us are struggling with many things is not because, I was just sharing with my friend here, that Nigeria has so much to offer. If only we can tidy up ourselves and gather our acts together, as a people and as a nation. And I'm committed to that core purpose. And by the grace of God, it will be accomplished. So today, we're talking about convergence, a fresh approach to marketing communications. There's a lot that has been said and that is being said. Unfortunately, in this industry, like it is in most other endeavors in Nigeria, most of us are no longer paying attention to skills development. Even at the artisans level, artisans don't want to learn anything anymore. Everybody has this shortcut mentality that you can just quickly fix it, and I guess that's why a lot of houses are collapsing, because some of the people building them have big knowledge of what it is to build a house. That's why many cars are crashing, because even the mechanic that you gave it to, he didn't wait to learn enough to be able to fix a car before he opened a small workshop by the side. So whatever it is that you do, I beg you in the name of God, pay attention to learn and to hone your skills. One of the crises of the younger generation is what I call lack of attention to details. God has given me a privilege. I've been in class in education with white people, with colored people, with different nationals. One thing I can say, and I can beat my chest on, is that the average Nigerian is an absolutely intelligent being. And we have capacity to also develop brilliance. But within that, there are environmental issues that sometimes just, head you in, and we have to rise above that. So looking at convergence, there's been a lot of misperceptions about digital media, about digital marketing, digital advertising. Some people even think that, nobody reads newspapers anymore. Or some people don't listen to radio as much as before. All those things are fallacies. And what I'm here to share with us this morning is that a convergence of what the old comprised of and the new is what will bring about meaningful success. You cannot pick one at the expense of the other. What I believe we need to do is to have a very, very clever blend of everything. Next slide, please. So looking at Nigeria, just a dozen quick facts. Go on, just press them. One, we're approximately 250 million people, plus minus. There are still arguments about this. I believe that one day we will be able to run a meaningful census that will actually tell us how many we are. Because sometimes I discover that international organizations also play with these figures for strategic reasons, whatever it is. But for whatever it's worth, we're approximately 250 million people. Next slide, please. Just go on, just open all the. Please go on. Let me operate the thing myself. Just now, of that 215 million, statistics say about 90 million live in extreme poverty. I somehow suspect that that figure will have increased by now. Because from the COVID time till now, many more people have gone into extreme poverty. While a few people have also shot out of 57 literacy rate. That is, of these 215 million people, 57% are literate, while the remaining 43 are illiterate. Now, 43% illiteracy is very high. Very, very high. I'm going somewhere. We are very ethnically diverse. We have over 370 ethnic groups in Nigeria, and we speak over 500 languages. Although you hear that there are 4 major languages in Nigeria: English, Yoruba, Igbo, Hausa, and Pidgin. That's not true. Many, many more. Very highly youthful population. About 150 million of this population are below 30 years. And I used to discuss with a group of young people who are either disinterested in politics, don't participate, don't think it's important to them. And I shared with them last year. I said I was 56 years old last year. I said I'm 56 years old now. I may not even desire to live another 56 years. That's 112, right? No. I think 100 is just enough. Right? But the point I was trying to make is that for somebody who is 20 years old, there is tendency that you are to live 300% of your present age alive. If we add 60 to it, that's 80. All things being equal, if you live to the age of 80, that's not bad. Right? Very good, actually. So if you are going to live to 80 years old, it should matter to you what happens in this country. Because of that 60 years, you are likely going to spend 55 of it as a family man, and giving birth to children. So, and I told them, I said, if I'm concerned about Nigeria, you should be more concerned. Because I've worked hard enough in my life to live the kind of life that I want to live. Whatever is happening in Nigeria. And if push comes to shove, I relocate to Ghana or whatever. Right? But I told myself, as a young man, I was never interested in living out of Nigeria, even when the opportunity. What I didn't do when I was 25, I wouldn't do at 57. Where am I relocating to? If this nation has 150 million people that are under 30, it is very, very nation. And for those of them that are in that age group, slightly higher age group, you have a high stake in this Teacher Speak conference. I told the team, I said, bring anybody that is below 35 to come and speak in that conference. Because, all the old people that have spoken and that are still talking We've not seen any value in all the talk that has been talked all these years. Moreover, how much contribution can they make into a future that they're not going to be part of? Really and truly. So, over 150 million Nigerians are below 30, and about 110 million live in urban areas and cities. Now, these statistics that I've given, I will explain why I brought them out this way. In Nigeria, there are over 130 functional publications: newspapers, magazines, trade journals, sporting publications, with the highest circulating newspaper circulating only about 100,000 copies daily. And top 4 papers contain over 90%. There are over 260 radio stations in Nigeria as we speak today, and over 160 television stations pan Nigeria. Fast-growing mobile device users, which has had a positive impact on online. Biggest internet market in Africa. Over 26 million Nigerians are on Facebook, either actively or inactively. And Nigeria has the biggest media community in Africa, followed by South Africa. Now, what we're discussing today in this is in the marketing space. And marketing, as defined by American Marketing Association, is the activity, set of institutions, that is advertising agencies, media houses, TV houses, distribution companies, and what have you, and processes for creating, communicating, delivering, and exchanging offerings that have value for customers, for clients, for partners, and the society at large. So if whatever you are doing does not have these values, then you need to take a look at it. But my own definition of marketing is that whatever it is that we need to do to make more people buy more of our products at more profit, at better gain for us and for all those involved, is marketing. So all around us, we see marketing. Every product we buy, every store we visit, every media message we receive, whether on your phone, whether through outdoor media, whatever it is that we do, every choice we make in our society has been shaped by the forces of marketing, whether we believe it or not. And I tell people, marketing I find as the most exciting profession, because when you do marketing, or when you're involved in marketing, it exposes you to almost every other industry that you would have interacted with. Now, we're all used to 4 P's of marketing. How many of us know 4 P's of marketing? Product, price. What else? Place, People. No, the 4 P's. People was not part of the 4 P's originally. Product, price, place, and promotion, right? Now, but gradually, we're only talking 7 P's because this is what is still acceptable now. There are actually some schools of thought that are extended to like 9, 10, 11. Please just open them all. So, no. Right. So we have products, we have price, we have promotion, we have place. Now we have people, processes, and physical evidence. What this chart is talking about is that marketing touches everything, and everything is important. So there used to be a classical story, and it was a real life happening. One of the biggest clients in the US wanted to appoint an agency. So they called for a pitch, and 4 agencies were shortlisted because they had very good credentials. And the MD said that before he chooses the agency, he would like to pay a physical visit to all their offices. So they planned a physical visit to all the offices, and very impressive offices, by the way. Like all of us would make our offices impressive, isn't it? When he went to those offices, you know his most important place of interest? Can you guess? Sorry? The restroom. He was going to the restrooms, and the agency that had the cleanest restroom won the business. And you know he's thinking, if any agency cannot pay enough attention to the cleanliness of the most private place in the company, they will not be able to pay equal attention to their business. And it is very, very true. These little things that we overlook, oh, it's not really important. You go to some people's homes and everything has given up. The door handle has fallen off. The TV cover is blown. The roof is in one. I went to a company where we were invited to present a couple of years back, and they hosted the national flag and the flag of their business in front of their offices, and both flags were torn. And I told my colleague, I said, somebody needs to be fired in this company. Because the MD himself drives in and out of that compound every day, and he sees the torn flag, and nobody has thought it necessary to do anything about it. So physical evidence talks about the whole outlook of your premises. How welcoming, how easy is it for people to navigate? There are some environments that you go to do business, and going from one unit to get things done to another is such a nightmare that you don't want to go back there. Then, of course, you have your processes. How easy is it for people to transact with your business? How convenient is it? Then, of course, the people that you have. Every building that you do, every marketing effort that you do, your people can mess it up completely. I don't care how much you spend. If your people have the wrong attitude and they treat customers shabbily, every advertising budget that you have spent, every marketing budget that you have spent goes down the drain, even at the reception. So everything is important. That's essentially what that slide is trying to say. Next slide, please. So it talks about product, place, promotion, price, physical evidence, process, and people. Next slide. Now, what is the role of promotion, which is the key thing that we're discussing here when we're talking about digital marketing? By the way, I have been struggling with people to get them to make a distinction and a separation between digital marketing and digital advertising and digital PR and digital sales promotion. And they just don't seem to understand. Because marketing is marketing, ab initio, digital is just a channel. We need to get this into our heads so that we don't think that we're doing something entirely different from what we used to do before. Just like it was that you used to shout across your window to call the next door neighbor, and you can now use your GSM enabled by technology. That's exactly what just digital is doing. So we need to understand, first of all, that we are in the practice of marketing, and digital is a channel of expression of doing that. So you can advertise on the digital platform, you can do your sales promotion on a digital platform, you can do your PR on a digital platform. There's so much, everything else that you do through the traditional channels of marketing, you can do on digital. So it's not as if anything is being reinvented. It's just the creation of a new channel that has gathered so much momentum, and is still gathering momentum for us to do what it is that we've always been done. Now, there are remote surgeries that are taking place now. You have a surgeon in the US, you have one in Singapore. On a platform to perform surgery on a patient. And they're interconnected and they're talking with themselves. And the patient is in a different location from the three of them. That is technology. That's essentially what the digital space or the digital platform has been able to do for us. So promotion, as earlier explained in the marketing mix, is that function that is designed with the aims of informing, persuading, reminding customers, consumers, and prospects about a business, brand, or a product. Now, traditionally, even the promotional mix, just like you have marketing mix, you have promotional mix. They have components that we use differently and are used at different stages of a product's life cycle. So if you want to just create awareness, there's an aspect of the mix that you use. If you want to reinforce, there's another aspect. If you want to induce trial, there's another. There's so very many things. There are brands that have been launched on sales promotions. How many of us remember Cowbell? You know, Cowbell didn't launch with advertising. Cowbell started their campaign with tin plates. How many of us remember? Some of those tin plates are still in the rural areas. They just produced some metal sheets which they knocked on various parts of town. And you saw those metal sheets every corner you turned to. And then from the metal sheets, they had very visible distribution outlets that you couldn't miss. It was when they made enough money from those that they started advertising. So there's nothing that says you have to launch with any aspect of the mix. Just choose what works for you. And we'll soon get to how you need to choose that. Of course, functions include but not limited to all those things. You want to introduce a new product. You want to explain major features of product. You want to communicate benefits of a product. You want to give information. You want to build, maintain, and enhance. And the list goes on and on and on. Whatever or activity requires you to pass information with the intention or aim of informing, persuading, or changing people's minds, falls within the promotional mix. Next slide, please. So that mix has, and it is still evolving. Because what has been happening with specialization is that a particular discipline, after some time, begins to grow organically and begins to break out. And after a while, those organic units that are broken out become almost substantive units on their own. So you have advertising and publicity, you have branding, you have personal selling, you have sales promotion, you have public relations, you have direct marketing, you have social media. Now, exhibitions are also part of your promotion mix. Activations are also part of it. Events and sponsorship are also part of it. There are so many things that happen in Nigeria, for example, under the name of sponsorship. And I keep on saying, I did a whole course for 3 months on sponsorship. And I know by a matter of fact, any activity that does not have a measurable impact at the end of it cannot be said to be sponsorship. You must be able to say at the end of a sponsorship that we were able to open 15,000 more new accounts. Or we were able to sell 15,000 more units of our goods. Or we were able to extend into, it has to be measurable and quantifiable. If the end of that activity doesn't give you that, then you can call it any other name. Philanthropy, contribution, donations, but not sponsorship. Right? So gradually, from direct marketing, you are beginning to have a lot more breaking out. Experientials. Experiential have become a discipline on its own now. You know, they even have an association, I hear. Association of Experiential Marketers, whatever. Now, within your own space, just think of what works for you and put it to use. Now, there is no harm in experimentation. But whenever you're experimenting, be prepared for 2 outcomes. Be prepared for it to work and be prepared either for it not to work. Any which way it goes is an experiment. So, and sometimes when you experiment, you have to experiment over and over and over and over and over again. How many of us know Thomas Edison? Right? The man that discovered or invented electricity. Do you know how many experiments he made before we got the electricity that we have now? 969 experiments or something. I'm not sure how many of us can try something 969 times. And you wouldn't have just told yourself, this is not worth it. But without that 969th experience, we will not have what we have today, at least not through him. Maybe somebody else would have started from where he. So don't be afraid to experiment. Because some of the things that we find, that we discover as novelties, sometimes are just experiments by people that happened to work out. So, next slide, please. Next slide after this. So spend trend. Now, I got this information. You know, Nigeria is a very difficult place to get data because even agencies are misrepresenting their billings for so many reasons. We're just a dishonest people. And this has nothing to do with government. You know, we just need to make up our minds to be honest and straightforward people. There are a lot of things happening in this country that the hands of government is not in. But we ourselves, the average Nigerian has what I call an oppressor mentality. He just wants to oppress the other man. Whoever he is, whether it's a gate man or once a gate man becomes chief gate man, you will see a different kind of behavior. If a driver becomes chief driver, you see another kind of behavior. He just begins to oppress other people. That is why whatever happens in Nigeria, whenever there's a contention between two people, the most popular question you hear is that, do you know who I am? So that's for another day. But anyway, quick facts about Nigeria's marketing advertising industry, 2019. Nigeria's total advertising spend was estimated at about $483 million. That is $193 billion in 2020. With this, with the spend on internet accounting for 20.5. Now, if you are doing digital marketing business and you've done traditional advertising business, you may discover that there are actually more margins in traditional advertising than in digital. Because in the digital marketing space, because we do not own the channels, the owners of the channels dictate what they want. That's one. Two, in the traditional space, there's still access for some negotiation or for some interaction. With most of these digital channels, is a hard wall. It's just a fence wall. It's either you take it or you leave it. Now, because the entry to barrier is very low, everybody is a digital marketer. Because all you need is a laptop and internet connectivity. And, off you go. Right? Now, the reason why I'm giving this information is that let us try and quantify that industry that we are talking about today. And let us begin to reason why convergence. Some of Nigeria's mega corporations spent about 143.7 of this money in 2020, representing only 12.5 drop in the same period. In 2019, when 123.75 billion was spent. Now, what I want to do with this information is for us to be able to understand the magnitude of the size of that industry. Next slide, please. Now, top 10 spend, this is 2020. MBL PLC was the biggest spender. They spent 24.86 billion. Next was MTN, 15.14 billion. Next was Dangote Cement, 12.18 billion. Next, Access Bank, 11.32 billion. And Fidelity Bank, 9.56. Now, there's a trend that I want you to see between the banking industries and the bureaus. 6 is also international bureaus, 8.82 billion. Another bank is number 7, 8.51 billion. Guinness Nigeria PLC is number 8, 8.18 billion. FBN Holdings, which is another financial institution, 7.72 billion. And then Zenith Bank, another one. So between the banks, the telecom companies, and the beverage companies, now I ask myself, do they need to do so much hard work to make us spend our money? Perhaps, yes. Now, the point here is that all these people, all these big spenders that we see, the whole accumulated spend of all of them put together that we can trace is just about 48%. So there's 52% of that money spent that is spent in unorganized sector and clusters, which I call the SMEs. Multinationals are the heaviest advertising spenders, and most of the spend, which account for 40%, of the industry is channeled through the big agencies. Whereas there's a multitude of SMEs who require advertising services, but are currently not doing so due to some challenges. Next slide. Now, why are SMEs so important? One, they contribute at 40% of Nigeria's GDP in the last 5 years. Two, they account for about 50% of industrial jobs. And three, they comprise about 90% of the manufacturing sector in terms of enterprises. So how can it be that this group that we've discussed do not have good access to marketing communications? Whereas most of the businesses that you saw there spending those big monies started mostly like very, very small businesses. What are the challenges? Rising costs of advertising. All the traditional media houses in the last 3 months just increased their rates. Press. And what happens is that once one segment increases the rate, the other just follows suit without necessarily asking any questions. It's just that, newspapers have increased their rates. They forget that the dynamics of these industries are different. Two, dwindling business volumes. That's obvious. The less you make, the less you have to spend. Three, rising operational costs. Diesel, I hear, as of today, is 520 naira per liter. Are you aware? Sorry? No, from 315, it went to 370. From 370, it went to 410. From 410, it went to 520. Now, of course, we all know what we are facing with petrol. Now, you cannot do business with these things. And ultimately, your cost of sales influences your sales price. So if it cost you 10 naira to produce a garment last week, and today it costs you 20 naira to produce the same garment, you're obviously not going to be able to sell it at the price that you sold it in the market. You know the worst of the crisis? The customer who is buying from you is not making additional money. He has not made any additional money in the last 2 weeks. In fact, he had made less money than he used to make. Whereas everything else around him, is going up. Rising cost of professional services, of course, for the same reason. People who provide professional services will, because they're operating in the same environment. The cost of one of my companies just approaching the clients to say that from April 1, agency service fees will be increased by X amount. Is either you want it or you don't want it. Because otherwise you will not be able to operate profitably if you do not do that. Of course, lack of professional advice because of this increase in cost of professional services. Most people that should use professionals are moving back from consulting professionals because there's a mindset that, they will be expensive. Whereas the advice that you need, only professionals can give it to you. Otherwise, you waste money and you waste resources. Of course, rising media rates, low returns on advertising investment. Now, of course, you need a professional to let you know that not all your problems can be solved by communications. So if you have some other problems in your business that you've not solved, no matter how well you advertise, the problem is not going to be solved. As a matter of fact, it may get worse. Because you have a bad product that has some intrinsic problems with it, and nobody has been bold enough to tell you, you've not been bold enough to find out. By the time you continue to advertise that product, you are only amplifying the problem. Because if 10 people knew that your product had that problem last year, and you have increased your advertising spend, now 20 more people know that the product has that problem. And what happens? And sometimes people keep complaining, I've been spending so much on advertising, and I'm not getting any result. Because not all problems can be solved by marketing communications. Sometimes it's something else in your business you need to fix. If you don't fix it, don't bother. Many of us are sending out invitations for a party. We have not sorted out venues. We have not sorted out the food that guests are going to eat. We've not sorted out the drinks. And we've sent out invitation cards. Now people have come to the party and don't have anywhere to sit. There's no food on the ground. Things. If that person invites you to a party the next time, what happens? It's not serious. That's what a lot of companies are doing to themselves. You are throwing out invites for a party that you are not prepared for. And preparing for your party is sorting your marketing mix and all those things out before you begin to send out an invitation. A few companies invite us to come and do rebranding work for them. And by the time we do a preliminary check, we tell them you are not ready to rebrand. If you want to rebrand, put X, Y, Z, A, B, C in place, then we know we are talking. We all witnessed the bank rebrands that happened a couple of years back. And you go to the bank that has rebranded, is exactly the same people that are there, same sloppy attitude, same lousy service, same everything. So it's not different from painting a graveyard with a different color. Inside that grave, there are still dead bones of dead people, no stories. So we need to recognize that not all our problems can be solved by digital marketing. There are intrinsic issues in our businesses that we need to deal with. Right? Next slide. So old and new media. Of course, your new media, your old media, newspapers, magazines, TV, radio, billboard, cinema. Then, of course, your new media, which all of us do. Online, banner ads, online streams, social media ads, email marketing. Next slide, please. Next slide. Now, there are pros and cons. For traditional media, it means new people and connects with old. It's easier to access. The response is faster. It's very versatile. It's good for connection. If you are on your radio, there are no connection issues. Whether you are in the bush, your state, or you are in a main city in Lagos, once it is within the catchment area of your frequency, you will get the radio. Now, if you really need to do things fast, because of some of the things we discussed, there's access. You can call people, you can discuss with them, you can have interactions with them. Of course, weakness and strength. Radio, no matter how well you target a radio campaign, if you miss your target at that time, that's it. It's not going to hear it again. Newspaper has the advantage of permanence. If I expose a newspaper material 2 years ago, if anybody comes in touch with that newspaper today, he still has access to it because it's in a permanent form, right? And then, of course, television has the advantage of audio, video, all together. Billboard has the advantage of impact. So each one has its own pros, and cons, depending on what you want to do and who your targets are. So you need to choose carefully what you need to do. Of course, new media also promotes greater attention span, better message retention rate, gives room for better, maintains better reality. Cons, not all available, used at a slower rate, more costly, slower response in time due to limitations. I was in Enugu a couple of weeks back to give a lecture to some small business owners. To make regular phone calls was an assignment for like 2 days. So internet connectivity was not even in the scheme of things at all. So we find out that the internet that we boast of and that we pride ourselves with and that we attach so much importance to, once you are out of the major city areas, it becomes a nightmare. In fact, there are parts of Southwest that even telephone signals are a nightmare. Once you leave Ife, between Ife and Ilesha, if you run into any problem in that area, you may not be able to access anybody because all the network, the signals are down. And for many, many years, the armed robbers and the kidnappers also know that. So they choose those areas where networks are not so good to operate, so that even if you want to make an emergency call, you can't reach anybody. No signal at all. So if we're talking now in the environments where these platforms have been used most effectively, they don't have these kind of issues. When we discuss with partners abroad and we tell them, oh, sorry, you couldn't get that email because internet was down, they're like, are you for real? Internet is down. It's not. It is unthinkable. Because in those environments, infrastructure has gotten to a point where things cannot happen. But we're still grappling with those things here. So when you really do run a campaign online, the question you need to ask yourself is, how effective is it in reaching all the people that it's supposed to reach? And then, of course, we had the literacy issue. Majority of us are still, even some of those literate people, some of their education is a bit suspect, but they've counted them as part of the literate people. Are you with me now? Now, a lot of these things, the reality is that as much as we desire and we bandy some of these figures around, they're sometimes not real at all. I sometimes read about data provided by GSM companies talking about so many subscriber base. And I'm asking myself, are those people from Nigeria or they're from outer space? And the reason is simple. The average business person in Nigeria has at least 2 lines. Some have 3, some have 4. Now, in the GSM company's rating, they are counting that person as 4 customers. Whereas it's only 1 customer who has 4 lines. I don't know whether you understand what I'm saying. So he uses one at night when there's free browsing. In the morning, he removes his SIM and put another one. That's why for some people that have 4 GSM lines, you find that at some time when you call one, is perpetually switched off. It is at other times. Then if anyone is doing a promo of buy 500, get 200 free, he quickly puts that SIM to use. So we have very unusual patterns of usage of those things. Whereas the GSM companies are counting those that have 4 GSM lines as 4 customers. It's only 1 customer that has 3 or 4 lines. Right? So, please, next slide. Now there's a rapidly evolving fusion between the old and the new. And we just quickly talk about this. Now, newspaper is not only available on the newsstand. You now have versions of newspapers online that you can read. How that has impacted the newspaper organizations is something that is worth investigating. Are people buying more newspapers or less newspapers? A lot of those newspapers online are not subscription-based. They are free for people to access. If they were subscription-based, we may say, okay, some people will subscribe, or not. Now, the advertising that happens on online media sometimes doesn't happen in the physical copies that you have, and vice versa. So there's so many things that are happening. All these newspapers that we have, the highest of them circulate 100,000 copies a day. So when you talk of 100,000 copies between a population of, let's even say 150 million, you can calculate how effective, in quote and unquote, those newspapers are. Are you with me now? Okay, you've targeted XYZ person. He watches this program at 9 o'clock and is always hooked up. So you place your advert, your commercial in the first commercial belt because you are sure that he will be listening or he or she will be listening. Once that commercial belt comes on, that is the time he quickly goes to use the toilet. That is the time the woman quickly goes to check what she's cooking on the fire so that it doesn't get burnt. That is the time that the baby that is crying is quickly attended to. So who really are you reaching? One of the frontline advertising professionals in those days said that for every advertising money that is spent, he knows that some portion is always wasted. But if the portion that gives him result is good enough, he's able to go with it. We've talked about radio. We've talked about all those things. So now there's a fusion that is coming on, right? Newspapers are available online now. Even radio stations are having online presence where you can watch presenters like you never used to do before. TV stations also now have websites where you can, there's a TV within the TV because you do not need a TV screen or a TV set to watch television anymore. Your handset may as well become your TV set because everything that is going on television has an online replica that you can watch either via YouTube or whatever. So there's a fusion that is coming in. Fusion let us work on looking at what works for us at a convergence. Don't say, oh, old media, new media, they all have their reasons and they all have their... There's so much trash on social media. If you ever rely on social media for genuine news, I'm sorry for you. Because it is prone to very easy manipulations, such that some of the things that have created such crisis in the environment, by the time you trace it to the bottom, you find out you can't really even know where this thing came from and how it became what it became. So what we're saying is that this fusion has brought about unusual developments in human communication and consumer behavior. And this has created lots of opportunities in the way we practice journalism, entertainment, and marketing. So we need to understand what those... We've spoken about this, how TV, radio, yes, we've spoken about that. So what is convergence? It refers to two or more things coming together, joining together, or evolving into one. It simply refers to the merging of different types, both from the old and the new. It has been discovered that email marketing is one of the most successful, of online channels or concepts that you can use. And it is also easily trackable. For example, the other things that you do, how measurable are they? You need to begin to ask yourself. Because for every return on investment, one of the critical components is your ability to measure the effectiveness. How well are you able to measure the effectiveness of the things that you do? Next slide. So, media convergence is the way to go. Traditional plus new combined with components of the mix. It gives your brand the more desired market edge. So what I'm saying is this. Look at the old, look at the new, pick what works for you. A few last words before we round up. Number one, adopt market-driven strategies to drive your business or brand by starting with a clear understanding of four things: your industry, markets, your customers, and your competitors. How much do you really know of the industry in which you're operating in? Many small, medium-scale enterprises don't actually spend time to gather information. If I were to ask any of you now, what is the size of the industry in which you are playing, both in volume and in commercial terms, will you be able to tell me? If you are making dresses, for example, or if you are making fruit juices, for example, can you tell me the value of that industry? Because without understanding those things, you can't drive growth. You can't even pursue any vision. Industry. The markets you are operating, how well do you understand the market? How well do you understand the geographical nuances? The first time I went to the East, I was working for a paint company. We had a brand to hand for them. I discovered that Easterners like very vibrant colors, even to paint their houses. I had not seen as many electric yellow houses like I saw when I crossed the Niger. And it also shows in the way that they dress. Very colorful. The Northerners eat a lot of spice, more than any region in this country, because they love spice in their food, whatever it is. So what understanding do you have of the markets in which you are operating? The segments that are in it. Which segment is served? Which one is underserved? Which one do you want to play? Because you have to be able to decide who you want to serve and who you don't want to serve. So markets. What about your customers? And what about your competitors? Because a good measure of how well you are doing or how not well you are doing will be the understanding of what your competitor is doing or what they are not doing. So that's the first one. Second, always strive to ensure that your brand develops, sustains, and enhances what I call unique value proposition. Money follows value. Once whatever you are doing doesn't have any value, don't expect money to come and follow it. Ensure that your value proposition is meaningful to the customers, meaningful to the segments that you want to serve, and is unique enough. And then lastly, for any successful marketing efforts, Segmentation is a critical step. Segmentation is a critical step. You have to be able to answer the question, who? Who is your product for? Who are you communicating with? Who are you talking to? Because if you get that wrong, I promise you, you'll get every other thing wrong. Now, I gave a few tips on this segmentation. Next slide. This slide is cutting off stuff. Segmentation. Consider different variables for segmenting the market for those who are currently using your products. Look for the profile of new and existing segments. Is there any trend that is happening? There was a time that one of our clients launched an air freshener. Very new fragrance. And they found out, I'm talking of 1992, they found out that a lot of that air freshener was selling unexpectedly high in the north. And they kept on pumping more products there. And every time they pump, maybe they send 500 cartons to other regions. If they send 1,000 to this place in less than 2 weeks, they will be exhausted. The distributors come back and say, we need. So like, what is going on? We discovered that the air freshener was being put to other uses. They were using it as body spray because the fragrance was so nice. So here was a product that was meant for something else. So that led to an artificial consumption. So the decision they needed to make is this. If people like this fragrance so much, why don't you make a body spray out of it and begin to sell it while you keep your air freshener? So even when your brand or product is doing unusually well, please investigate why. Find out why. I'm sure the people that manufacture tramadol perhaps never imagined that it could be put to the use that it is being presently put to. You know the Viagra story. Viagra was not meant to be a sex stimulant. It was meant to calm down those that have blood and hypertensive issues, to help them relax and sleep better. But the sale began to spike up. And it's like, are there many people that have this problem? Of course not. But those that had the problem discovered that the product was having other effects that were positive. So the word began to go around. So what did the owners do? They quickly repositioned the brand, and it worked. So you need to always ask the question, check for the validity of your segment. Then you target. Decide on appropriate targeting strategy. Many of us really don't ask too many questions. Even before you go on to that online campaign, ask a few questions about this person. And online is so interesting, you can segment a lot better than you do with the mass media. Get information. Many of us don't want to invest in information, even the Nigerian government. Because I asked somebody, I said, how do people come about this budget that you are defending? And I got one answer that confirmed to me that they were not investigating anything. Many years ago, we were trying to work with a client on AIDS awareness. And I said, our government should be supporting you. At that time, when AIDS was really a major issue, I think the whole awareness budget for AIDS by Nigerian government was 50 million naira. Government can't serve the people if government doesn't invest in information. Likewise, you cannot serve your customers if you don't invest in information. So how much research do you carry out? It doesn't have to be a whole lot of things, but how much research do you really carry out? Basic questioning. If you don't know your customers, you can't target them effectively. Then, of course, positioning. Understand in each segment customers' perception. How do they perceive your brand? Position. Now, what are the things to consider? Basic consumer characteristics, age, sex, marital status, family, race, religion, family life cycle are important. We received a brief many, many years ago from a frontline business in this country. And they told us that their target market was young ladies of ages 18 to 35. And I said, that can't be your target market. 18 to 35 is too wide. Because there's so much difference between an 18-year-old woman and a 35-year-old woman, depending on who they are. If an 18-year-old woman is married, she's different from her 18-year-old friend who is not married. Because automatically being a married woman impacts her life in a different way. Now, there's still further marked difference between an 18-year-old woman that is married and has a child and the one that does not yet have. Because the restrictions are increasing with each of the stages. So your 20-year-old or 25-year-old friend who you used to just go around town anyhow you wish together, the day she gets married, she can't go around town anyhow she wishes. Unless the husband is exactly like her and they are going around town together. The day she has a child, it's a different ball game. She can't do the things that her friends do. Because maybe over the night she managed to sleep only 1 hour. So she sleeps only during the day. And every money that comes into her hands, there's a consideration for one addition. The kind of places she goes begins to be different. The kind of things she thinks about begin to be different. She starts thinking about creche. She starts thinking about nursery, primary school. Her friend that is single, not married, or doesn't have a child, doesn't have any business thinking about those things. Now, if that 18 to 24-year-old girl is now a single, altogether communicating with them, their needs, their nuances, their situation, their circumstances are entirely different. And you need to have a deep understanding of that to target them effectively and to sell to them. Otherwise, you'll be a shotgun that may not be hitting anybody. And that is why many people don't have what you call good returns on investment. So, demographics. 2, socioeconomic, the income, the occupation, the education, the social class. All these things influence the way that we think, the way that we do business, the things that we consume. Of course, 3, geographical location. The country, the region, the state, the local government area, the type of urban area, urban and rural type of accommodation. Everything. There are some types of accommodations that people have that they need fans more than those that don't have those kinds of accommodation. If you live by the seashore, if you ever go to some areas of Badagry, very few of them buy ACs and fans. Because every time, because of the proximity to the seashore, it is always cool. They leave their windows open at night. Except the boys are around. Right? So, if you want to go and sell snows to Eskimos, you have to think twice. Because the Eskimo sleeps, wakes, and does everything in the snow. Right? So, you need to understand. That is geographical location. Personality, motives, and lifestyle. Consumers' personality, motives for purchasing, consumers' lifestyles and aspirations. All those things matter. Why do your customers buy your product or service? Why? What is it doing to them? Somebody told me that she takes Malta Guinness because she mixes with bitter leaf juice or something. That it does something. It was too complex to understand. You know, that it does something to her blood. And she drinks this thing religiously. And my marketing brain tuned that, why don't you buy better money? You know, it's not the same. That this one has the whatever is rich. When she adds this bitter leaf juice to it, and she drinks it. I said, but malt is malt. He said, no, malt is not malt. Now, I don't know whether Malta Guinness is aware that people that buy Malta Guinness are mixing bitter leaf juice with it. Sorry? 7-Up. They are using 7-Up to do herbs, pouring all kinds of concoctions and and drinking it. You are shaking your head. I shook it many, many times before. Right? Then, of course, basic consumer characteristics, purchase behavior. How do they purchase? What are the motivations for switching? Purchase occasion. There are some people that go to eateries Thanksgiving. After that, they don't go to eatery. I was amazed. Just like when we were growing up in those days, there are particular times of the year that family eat jollof rice and chicken. Outside of those areas is white rice and regular anything. No jollof rice and chicken. So how do they? And now these things are not rocket science. We see them every day. We come across them every day. But nobody is paying attention to collect the data and the information. Then, of course, what are the benefits they're looking for? Perhaps the most popular segmentation basis. What we are saying here is that understanding benefits that your consumers are looking for is perhaps one of the most critical information that you need to gather. And of course, consumption behavior. Are they heavy users? Are they light users? Are they occasional users? Are they one-off users? You need to understand all these things. Now, the reason why I went through this is that, like I mentioned before, what you are doing on digital is what is being done on non-digital. The thinking process is the same. The point of attaining, of getting to your strategy is the same. It's just that the channel is different and it requires its own strategy because of the way that it's configured. Last slide. Thank you. So think of this convergence in the light of what we have discussed and try to pay attention to some of this basic information. And I believe that you'll be able to make more meaningful use of the channel and better for your business. Thank you.
Thank you so much, sir. How many of you enjoyed the session? If you did, please give Mr. Joko Okupe a very big round of applause. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen. I'm sure a lot of you have questions. There'll be time for question and answer. Don't worry. So right now, we'll be taking a coffee break. We'll be taking a break and then networking amongst ourselves for just 5 minutes. Okay, for 5 to 10 minutes, everybody. So can we just take a break, just move around, stretch legs, meet someone, get to gist, at least get to know somebody's name? All right, thank you very much. Let's just take this break. Thank you.